Obviously, your sailmaker is the best person to repair your sails, but unfortunately, sometimes you're in the middle of the ocean and you just can't get to them. Thankfully, with a good pair of scissors, some sail repair tape, and a sewing awl, there's quite a bit that you can do to keep sailing until you can get back to your sailmaker. For example, a common issue with laminate sails is damage to the mylar film that holds the threads together. And you can see this particular sail is damaged. The threads are slightly damaged, but still generally intact here. This problem becomes increasingly common as laminate sails age and the mylar film becomes more brittle. Thankfully, there are some pretty easy ways to patch it. Your sailmaker would likely use Tedlar Film, which comes in a roll and is a thin sort of plasticky film, and it comes on a paper backing, and they would simply cut this out and stick it on. Tedlar is a really great product. It's UV resistant, it's weather resistant, it's very sticky, made for lots of industrial applications, but it's also a little bit expensive and a little bit hard to work with when you're not in a controlled environment. For example, it's very thin and very sticky. So if you're outside and the wind is blowing, the mylar film is likely to flap around and you'll likely get it stuck on in the wrong place. Another option is Dacron sail repair tape, which also comes in a roll. It's just like your sail material for Dacron sails. It's got a backing as well. You can simply cut it out, make a patch, stick it on. The problem with that on laminate sails is that it looks a bit ugly, but it is good for some applications, as we'll see in a minute. Another option, which I kind of like actually, the sailmakers might kick me under the table, and that is Gorilla Tape. It's available at your hardware store. It's pretty sticky. It's a little bit heavier than the Tedlar, but it's actually a lot easier to apply because you can apply it right off the roll. There's no backing material on it, and because it's a little bit heavier, it's less likely to get caught up in the breeze when you're outside. I keep a roll of Gorilla Tape on my boat, and so if I see a nick on my mainsail when I'm raising it, I'll just go and patch it with Gorilla Tape. So we're going to go ahead and patch this laminate sail with Gorilla Tape here. There we go. You want to make sure your sail is clean and dry before you do this. If the sail is wet, you can wipe it off or use some rubbing alcohol to make sure that it's really dry. So we're just going to go ahead and stick this onto the sail like this. And another nice thing about Gorilla Tape is it's cheap and easy to get. So if your repair doesn't work out, you can just do it again. So I'm going to make sure that's really good and stuck on there. And for this particular repair, I'm going to do it on the back side of the sail as well, just so that it's on both sides. Right here is a patch that I made on this jib about a year ago. What happened is this hank got caught on a swage as we were hoisting the jib, and it actually dragged this grommet down and ripped the sail along this path here that you can see. So what I did is I took my Dacron sail repair tape, cut it out, wrapped it around, rounded the edges. It's important to round the edges so it doesn't peel off as readily. And then what I did is took a couple of pieces of wood, put the pieces of wood around it, and then a C-clamp on that, and left that for a few hours to make sure it was really good and connected. And as you can see, it's starting to lift a little bit on that edge. But this repair has actually held up remarkably well. And here's another spot where I repaired some spreader damage on the leech of this jib. Basically, I took the same Dacron sail repair tape, and you can see I cut 2 strips of it, rounded the edge here, stuck it on, and that's held up pretty well too. If you lose a telltale, You can, once again, use your Dacron sail repair tape, cut a patch of the appropriate size around the edges. You can see this folds around the sail. Put a slit in the middle of it, and then you simply stick this through, stick your your new Telltale through, and stick it all together, and voila, you've got a new Telltale. Jib Telltales are also quite literally pieces of yarn that are stuck on with little discs of sail repair tape. This particular one is stuck out from the edge, but you can also put a little slot in the middle of the disc if you want it to look a little bit fancier. If you have a little nick in your spinnaker, you can either use colored Spinnaker repair tape, or you can once again use your Dacron sail repair tape. Both of them work equally well. The Dacron repair tape is a little bit heavier, but still works. And if your colors don't match, you can actually have some fun with patterns. My wife likes it when I make little heart-shaped patches like this, and I can sail with love. This is probably one of the more interesting field repairs that we did. We were sailing along, and we blew the Clew ring out of this screecher. It just parted, and the screecher started flapping. And so what we did to fix it is we simply fished a soft shackle through the webbing where the ring was, and voila, the screecher was pretty much as good as new. And even though this was a temporary field repair, we're still using it like this right now. So you might think this is all well and good to be sticking stuff together, but what if what if some of the stitching comes apart here in this Clew patch or on a Dacron sail, for example, and you can't just use sticky-based materials to glue things together? Well, this was obviously done by a sewing machine at the sailmaker, and it's kind of impractical to carry around a sewing machine, especially if you're on a racing boat, but you can carry something like this, which is a Sewing Awl, which allows you to actually do lock stitches just like this. It's a bit slower, but it certainly works, and I've actually repaired webbing on sails with it. So I'm going to show you how to use a Sewing Awl on this piece of cardboard because it's easy to flip it over and see exactly what's going on. So what you do is you figure out where you're going to start sewing, and you poke the Sewing Awl through. Now you need to be careful that your fingers aren't on the other side because the Sewing Awl is very sharp. So now when you pull the Sewing Awl back, you can see that it leaves a little loop of material here. This is going to be useful for future stitches as well, but for the first one, we're going to pull all of this through, okay? And then we go back on the other side. I'm going to make these fairly big. I'm going to poke this through here. And now, when I pull this back, you can see that it forms a little loop, and then I stuff my tail through it, pull it tight, and there's my first lock stitch. For my second lock stitch, do the same thing, stick it through, flip it over, pull it back a little bit, it makes the little hole, stuff the tail through the hole. That's 2 lock stitches. Come back here, pull out a little bit more, stick this through again, pull it back. You can see there's another little loop, put the tail through, pull it through. There we go. We've got 3 lock stitches right there, and obviously you can do zigzag or any pattern that you want. The Sewing Awl is very, very strong, so you can get through any corner patches. And this thread is also super strong. And I've sewn all kinds of things back together with this. You can pretty much sew anything on a boat. It just takes a little while. So with some Dacron repair tape, some Spinnaker repair tape, some Gorilla tape, a good pair of scissors and a Sewing Awl, and some soft shackles, you can do all kinds of sail repairs in the field. Obviously, your sailmaker is still the best resource for repairing your sails. You can pick up some Tedlar from your sailmaker if your sails are newer and you still want to do some repairs in the field. So this isn't at all a replacement for a good sailmaker. but it does keep you sailing when you can't get to your sailmaker. Thanks so much for watching. Bye for now.